guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about Nigeria's notorious armed robbers. We've heard about the likes of Anini and Shina Rambo, Nigeria's most notorious armed robbers who have ended badly for living on the fast lane and bearing the consequences. Ishola Oyenusi is a name etched in the history of Nigeria as one of the most violent armed robbers, a criminal who unleashed boundless terror on many Nigerians. But who was he and what did he do to be associated with so much notoriety? Ishola Oyenusi, popularly known as Dr. Oyenusi, was a notorious armed robber who terrorized the people of Lagos and other neighboring cities in the 1970s. Little is known about him, but from his confessions, we got to know who he was. Dr. Oyenusi and his gang of 7 were highly skilled in snatching cars, robbing banks, factories, stores, and killing people like chickens. Dr. Oyenusi, as he was called, was not a doctor by profession but adopted the title for the fun of it. The evidence lies in a confession he made few minutes before he was executed. He confessed that his parents were not capable of furthering his secondary school education, and that was what forced him into robbery. So without having a secondary school education, it's easy to tell that Oyenusi could not have been a medical doctor. He robbed banks and people in both day and night, and he never let any of his victims live to see another day. He killed them all. This earned him the name Dr. Rob and Kill. His first robbery was snatching a car whose owner died in the process, just because he, Oyenusi's girlfriend, needed some money. It was said by some people that Oyenusi was romantic. He sold the car at the price of 400 naira and gave the money to the girlfriend. He was also known to be very short-tempered and arrogant, which was why nearly all his operations ended with people dying. At the height of his horrific reign, Oyenusi bragged that the bullet has no power, but he also forgot that he who lives by the sword will surely die by the sword. Oyenusi was so infamous that he was regarded by some people as the first celebrated armed robber in Nigeria. And after him was Lawrence Anini, Babatunde Folorunshò, Shina Rambo, Brimo Jimo, and others. I'll be narrating those stories in the coming days, so don't go nowhere. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss it. Nothing lasts forever, they say. All good and bad things must come to an end. On the 27th of March 1971, Oyenusi was nabbed by the police during one of his robbery operations in which he and his notorious gang killed a police constable named Mr. Mui and stole $28,000 as a pen. Cloud of shame hovered above Dr. Ishola Oyenusi as he was dragged away by armed policemen while a crowd gathered to watch him. Oyenusi's arrogance was also legendary. In 1970, he was arrested and handcuffed by a police officer. As the policeman was dragging him around, Oyenusi blasted and yelled, "People like you don't talk to me like that when I'm armed. I gunned them down." But that was not all. Oyenusi was so feared that when the famed movie director Chief Eddie Uboma made a film titled The Rise and Fall of Dr. Oyenusi in 1977, there was no one bold enough to come forward and act that role because they feared his members would show them hell. Uboma had no other option but to act the role himself with the feature film depicting the senseless violence of armed robberies and the absolutely atrocious manner by which lives of innocent Nigerians were snuffed out. But there was one interesting thing that happened. A medical doctor by the name Dr. Oyenusi, who is not related to the armed robber, was so angry about the film that he headed to court trying to stop the shooting of the movie, citing that the movie would defame his good name. Actually, Obama was threatened. He received a letter from thieves, from people who invaded and looted his provision store, carted away with some of his goods. In the letter, they promised to return his goods if he would only stop shooting the film, in which he exposed the support received by the armed robbers from their godfather and even high-ranking officers in the Nigerian armed forces. The stubborn Uboma called their bluff and went ahead with the 16mm flick. Uboma would later produce many other films such as Death of a Black President, Esan, The Mask, and so forth. During interrogation, Oyenusi, the armed robber, said he wouldn't die alone, so he went on and mentioned names of the other members of the gang, which were Joseph Osamadike, Ambrose Nwokobia, Joel Amamiye, Philip Ogulimen, Ademola Adegbitan, and Stephen Ndubuoku. He was found guilty and sentenced to death by firing squad. Back then, public execution was the order of the day, so when Oyenusi was ushered to the popular Bar Beach in Lagos where he was to be executed, over 30,000 Nigerians were excitedly waiting to see the face of this criminal for the first time. It was said that some civil servants even brought a coffin to the execution ground to mock him, but Oyenusi didn't care. He wasn't afraid of death. Trucks carrying Oyenusi and his executors arrived at the execution ground at 10 a.m. Dr. Oyenusi, as it's popularly called, his gang members and one other criminal got down slowly. People jeered and booed them, especially Oyenusi, who they had really trooped out to watch him die. Oyenusi was wearing a black long-sleeve shirt and had his hands tied behind him. He was sweating profusely, but managed to smile all the way to the stakes. He kept smiling, but could still not hide the agony and terror written boldly on his face. As the soldiers grabbed and tied him to the pole, he was still scanning through the crowd, looking around, trying to understand why all these people are looking at him in such a happy manner. It was the people versus Oyenusi at that point. One of the giggling spectators in the crowd whispered to the next guy, "Who is he looking for?" Meaning, who is Oyenusi looking for? Because he was scanning at the crowd. Quickly, 7 soldiers formed the line in front of Oyenusi, aimed at him and his men. The next thing they had was fire, and bullets were raining on Oyenusi and the others. Few minutes before he died, Oyenusi told the press that he is dying for the offense he committed. That was the bitter end of Ishola Oyenusi, who lived by the bullets and died by the bullets. As hinted earlier, death by firing squad was the order of the day at that time. Following Oyenusi's execution, the information officer stationed at the Nigerian embassy in Washington, D.C., Femi Davis, was interviewed on the matter, and he said, "It is the law to shoot persons convicted of armed robbery." According to one of his defense lawyers who visited him while in jail, Oyenusi was imprisoned for the first time when he was 21. He then escaped and was imprisoned again. He escaped again and was imprisoned again. He escaped about 8 times, and then he decided to become an armed robber, and that gave him the cloak of invisibility for some time. Finally, there was no escaping justice. With that, Oyenusi and his gangs of criminals were put away for good. That's all I have for you guys today. Please subscribe and like this video. Thank you for watching and have a good day.